Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Create With Us podcast, where we take you behind the screens. We are very excited for our guest today. My name is Brett Barley. Joining me, as always, is my dude, Jeff Vinn. Jeff, what's going on today, man?
What's going on, Brett? Looking forward to this guest. She's done some really cool things and some unique things. So can't wait to dive in and learn more about who.
Yeah,
totally. Are we learning about?
Yeah,
who's
absolutely.
It going to be?
This is the mystery. This is who it is. The mystery is revealed now. It's Erin Halper. Erin is the founder and CEO of The Upside, which is an award-winning accelerator and community for consultants and industry experts who support and advance one another in business. So since launching The Upside back in 2017, Erin has advised thousands of professionals on how to build a respected consultancy practice that generates consistent clients and affords them the freedom of working when, where, and how they want. Doesn't that sound nice? That's awesome. So this is the exact kind of person we want to have on the show today. We're very, very excited to welcome her in. So let's kick off episode 5. Let's do it. Erin, come on in. What's up, Erin? How's it going today?
What an intro. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate you being here today. So as we kind of mentioned a little bit about The Upside, you've been going since 2017, so still relatively new, right? Still kind of a new thing. How's everything going with The Upside?
It's so funny. I'm like, we're like 4 years in, and
I know.
Yeah, we're not a startup. I should stop saying founder. I should just say CEO. I'm like, oh my God, new. I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm like a veteran in this industry, because it is pretty new. What we do is in this space emerged around 2015, 2016, and people started coming into the space trying to solve the general problem different ways. And so I love that you said you're still new. I like that.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Well, you're still holding it down over there. So let's get right into it, Erin. We want to learn all about you. We're so excited to have you today. So why don't you start off? Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you do? Tell us a little bit about your hustle.
Oh, well, hustle. No. Oh,
that's
hustle.
Right.
See, hustle to me, that's funny you said. Hustle is a dirty word. I think we shouldn't be hustling. I think that if you're playing it right, you don't have to hustle. But we'll get back to that.
Right.
I will give you a little bit of background. I live in a suburb of New York City. I'm married. I've got kids, juggling it all, doing that thing. And I started The Upside in 2017 because I had consulted on my own for 7 years. I had been out on my own, as a marketing consultant. I was working for private equity firms, real estate investment firms, hedge funds, and I wanted to help others have that same work-life balance that I had. I started seeing friends having kids and moving to the suburbs and commuting and being pulled in all different directions. And I was so frustrated by the fact that they felt like they had to choose between working full-time or not working at all. Mm-hmm. And back then, there was no remote work for executives. It wasn't, no company was doing that. Today, we have a little more options, but it's still, everyone's pulled in all these different directions. And I said, well, why don't you just consult? I do that, and it's great. I make 6 figures. I work when I want. I work where I want, how I want. I'm like, great. How do I do that? And I started advising people informally, and eventually I developed a company around that concept. So we're a mission-based company. I mean, that's what drives everything I do every day. It's all about solving a problem. And the problem that we set out to solve is, how do we help more people create better work-life balance? Because like I said, I do not believe in the hustle. I don't use that word. That's a dirty word in my world. And so how do we get rid of that hustle and that struggle and have better work-life balance? We like the work we do. How do we incorporate it into our lives as we evolve as people and as parents, and just evolve with different needs? That's the mission of the business. That's what I set out to solve. And because my background was in consulting and I had done it without knowing any better or knowing any different successfully, that's how I decided to skin the cat and solve the problem. And other of my peers in the space who I've gotten to know over the years, they solve the same problem, but with a different approach. And it takes a lot of us to come together, solving the same problem, different angle, different business models, different audiences, but it's the same general problem. And that's what drives us every single day.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Erin, we're going to have to change the name of our segment now. You've completely shattered the hustle. It's got to go now. We're going to come up with something new. Just kidding. We'll work on that. But yeah, good call. Definitely. That's good stuff. So as far as who it is that you're consulting, is there a certain field, a certain type of person that you're working with, or does it kind of vary?
It varies. The business model is the underlying common denominator. So it's consultants, advisors, workshop leaders, speakers, authors. The business model is it's a service-based B2B business model. So people who work directly with businesses, but they span all industries, all sectors, all functions. So we have marketers coming from CPG. We have fractional CFOs who came from big tech. They span all industries and functions. And the reason why it works so well is because what is applicable to the fractional CFOs or the COOs, what works for them may be able to be tweaked to work for, say, like the publicists in a way that they never thought possible. Because what happens is most of these communities, most groups, it's like, oh, we're like the digital marketing group, or we're the group for PR people, we're the group for the. And what happens is it's like a diversity issue. It's how we've learned in corporations, how you can't really be an awesome company if you have all the same people on your board. It's the same thing when it comes to community. So by diversifying the industries, but still having that common denominator of being a service-based business or consultant or boutique firm, it creates the diversity of ideas, that cross-section of ideas that helps everybody grow a lot faster. And I think that's what our members would say is the magic of the upside.
Very cool. Good stuff. Well, let's get into, I'll let Jeff step in here for a second. Let's get into how exactly you help businesses grow. Jeff, you want to take it over?
Sure. So in this case, we're talking about consultants primarily, but you mentioned that work-life balance earlier. And I think a lot of times consultants can get in that trap where they just like work. And granted, they're getting the high dollar gigs perhaps, but what do you find in your network or community of people? What's the biggest challenge consultants face coming in to your community?
Ooh, how long is this podcast? That's a deep question. There's a few things. So first of all, from just like a day-to-day standpoint, time management. So how do I figure out how much time to spend on business development versus how much time to actually bill? And if I do too much business development, I'm only one person, so I can only take on so much work at a time. And managing that balance is really hard for people. And there are ways to scale and ways to monetize overflow, so that shouldn't be an issue. But a lot of people think it is, especially right at the beginning. The biggest problem, and we briefly talked about this once before, the biggest problem is people do not package what they're offering in a way that is simple, that tells me what you do and for whom, especially in terms of value and results. So the copywriter wants to be, they want to say, I'm a copywriter, or I do brand storytelling, or they make up something. You're not speaking the company's language, the client's language. You're speaking your language. Mm-hmm. Clients don't speak in terms of storytelling. Don't say storytelling. That's not how they describe what they need. Describe your services in terms of results and in terms of what the client's language is, and describe who you work with. So people will say, oh, I work with brands that blah, blah, blah. What brands? CPG brands? Do you work with tech companies? Like, who are you working with? Make it easy for people to understand what you do, because there is no better tool for generating business than the answer to the question, what do you do? Because everyone asks you that 5 million times a year. And every time you answer, it's an opportunity to generate business. So if you don't get that right, you're in trouble.
Yeah, take the copywriter, for example, or an example you want to use. So typically they talk about what they do. They're a storyteller, what like that, like flip that around and give us an example of a transformation you've seen from talking about themselves to speaking the other language of the business.
So many of them, I'm going to have to pick an industry. Give me an industry first. Pick something.
Probably it could be marketing or going back to that copywriter.
Copyright. Yeah, the copywriters are really bad at it because they're professional. So everybody's bad at their skills when applied to themselves. So the marketers can't market themselves. The writers can't write about themselves. I would say the CFOs do have very good accounting going on, but other than them, just about everybody is terrible at doing what they do best, but for themselves. So the copywriters are the worst at writing about what they do because they put all this flowery language in that all these adjectives, they spruce it up, they get all clever. And I just want to know, what do you do and for whom? So I always talk about peeling back the onion layers. Why does anyone need copywriting? Do they need copywriting or do they need more customers? Why do you need copywriting? It's to get more customers. It's to grow your business. So when a copywriter talks about what they do, when someone says, what do you do? They need to have the mindset of the client needs more customers. I'm skinning that cat through copywriting. I know how to get customers' attention. I know how to pull in customers and drive traffic through really specialized copywriting. That's really what you're offering. What they do instead is they say, I am a brand storyteller that takes your path and translates it into words that customers love. Okay, I have no idea what you do. I have no idea who you do it for. I have already lost interest. You will never get a referral from me because I have no idea who to send your way. I want to help you, but I can't because I don't know what you do and I don't know who you do it for. You've overcomplicated it. Instead, it's I help D2C beauty companies drive traffic through well-written Instagram ads.
Gotcha. That's very specific. And do you find that having a specific offer or, a lot of times they use the word lead magnet for that copywriter would be the move, or can they just keep it open and take the inquiry and do it from there? Like, do you find an initial offering or some kind of like lower entry points good for service based people like this or not?
I don't believe in a low entry point. I believe in a small, medium, and large. And I believe that you want to capture all decent clients in some way, shape, or form that does not minimize your value. So here's an example of how that would work. Let's take a publicist. Let's take a publicist or a boutique PR firm. So let's say I'm a startup, I'm bootstrapped. They hear that all the time. Oh, I don't have a big budget. What can you do? So a PR firm, whether it's a consultant or a small boutique agency, their rates can range from $5,000 a month retainer to $12,000 a month. It just depends on who they are and what sector you're in. So between $5,000 and $12,000 a month. A startup bootstrap company is not going to be able to afford that. So instead of turning that client away, one could say, all right, well, I understand that you are just starting and you don't have the budget for our standard retainer. However, we offer a monthly advisory and coaching package that is probably within your budget and will drive the needle, will move the needle for you in big ways that you will be doing a lot of the execution. And let me show you how that works and what it costs. And on the back end, the cost per hour, per unit of time is going to be your highest possible cost because they're not able to commit to a full retainer. But for the startup, for the bootstrap startup, they're getting something scaled to meet their needs. An example of that could be $600 a month or $500 a month. You'll get us for 1 hour and we will provide you strategy and we'll provide you an editorial outreach. We'll craft the email for you to do the pitch. We'll do all of that for you, all within those hours, and we'll meet. Well, let's do a 6-month contract. We'll meet 6 times once a month, and that way you're getting paid $500 an hour for your time, which is nice, and they can afford it, and they get something, and you're not just turning them away. That would be an example of small offering, like a 1-hour strategy session, and then you can offer. The large offering is, of course, the big monthly retainer. And then the medium can be something in between. But you can say, oh, I have a day rate. You can have an hourly rate. You can have a day rate. Scale your offerings in a way that can be affordable to all good clients. And when I say good clients, meaning decent companies that have potential, and big companies. In fact, I will say that we offer, as I'm talking about this, I'm like, I should probably mention, we offer a pricing guide. It's free. You can download it on our website, and it actually goes through all of these things. It goes through all of these different pricing models, and also gives you a calculator on how to calculate your pricing in a way that you can capture these small, medium, and large offerings. I could talk forever about this. I teach this stuff all the time. So any questions you have about pricing and scaling your pricing is I'm happy to answer. But I will say the absolute wrong way to go about it is entry points. You want to always start high. And if they can't afford it, say, okay, well, I also offer this.
That's a great example. So 2 takeaways so far. One is many people miss it on the messaging, right? Way too generic, way too flowery words, right? So that's not even going to be the initial right connection. And then 2, you're still able to take perhaps good clients that don't have a budget, but using the ABC model or the good, better, best, you can still grab them.
Still grab them, and you just don't know who. You still get value out of that. Like, you still make that $500 in an hour. That's easy money. It's not a lot of work. You don't have to prep for it. You don't have to execute. You just show up and talk for an hour. That's still good money for 1 hour of your time. And I just made up that rate because I know a lot of people who charge that for a 1-hour strategy session. But it's also a way to monetize a funnel of pick your brain people. You're like, oh, great. You want to meet with me and pick my brain? Here's a link for my 1-hour strategy session. I'd love to work with you.
Yeah. Erin, this goes back to a conversation we had. So, you have, well over 100 people in your community and growing, closing in on 200 soon. And everybody wants to pick your brain and get your time. But the way you got around that was you're glad for people to pick your brain, but you're coming with so much experience and strategy. You put it in a super high hourly rate. So indeed, if they do pick your brain, you're recompensed for it, and you're not fielding all these requests, right?
Right. And the people who do pay for that 1-hour strategy session, they're the right people for it. And they do, they say you should charge more for this. And they say this is, because listen, when you really know what you're doing, when you are truly an expert in something very specific like this, the ROI on that advice is beyond measure. I've had people 5x their rates after a 1-hour call with me and get the rate. I've had people completely change their entire business model for the better after a 1-hour call. And I'm not trying to sell. I don't even want to be doing those things anymore. You can't grow a business on 1-hour calls. I'm just saying that you have to value the advice and the strategy from those 1-hour sessions or 30-minute sessions. Pick your brain clients do not typically turn into paying clients. You have to put a dollar amount on and value your time. If I were to hire a digital agency and I got you on the phone, Jeff, I wouldn't be like, okay, can you tell me, okay, so if we work together, what are your ideas for how I can grow my digital presence? I hope you would not answer that question. I hope that you'd say, we have worked with so many clients like you, and I have so many awesome ideas for how we're going to blow this thing up digitally for you. And it's going to involve paid ads. We're going to drive traffic through XYZ. giving me the what, but you're not giving me the how.
Mm-hmm.
And if I kept pushing, you'd say, you know what? It sounds like you are actually interested in a strategy session. Just so you know, we do offer that. Would you like me to send you a link for one of our paid strategy sessions? Otherwise, I have all these great ideas and I cannot wait to execute them for you once you sign the contract and pay.
Good call. Good call. Yep, absolutely. So Erin, let's hop a little bit into the entrepreneurial side of things. So we talked a little bit at the beginning of the show about how you kind of got into how you started your company, how your journey started. What would you say so far the most rewarding part of your entrepreneurial journey has been?
Helping people. I mean, that's why I started this company. Honestly, I started it to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I started it because I wanted to solve a problem that I thought, and a lot of other people think is a big problem. You know, the pay gap, the lack of flexibility, the abuse of some of these corporations,
Sure.
you know, what they do to their employees. I had a very good corporate experience. I got very lucky. I had awesome bosses, awesome colleagues, which is why I was so naive when I went out on my own. I went out on my own because I just wanted flexibility and I wanted to like kind of do what I wanted. It was coming from a place of extreme privilege, I can tell you that. And also I was naive. Once I heard everybody else's stories about what their jobs were like and how their companies treated them and how they asked for 1 day remote working from home, and the company said, well, you want that, you're done, you're gone. These are people who had been there for 5 years. They're like, I can't work from home 1 day a week. Like, you can't make that work for me. This is crazy. You know, it just, how people were treated just really drove me crazy. And I wanted to make a difference. So to me, you know, it's just all about helping people. I have a drawer. It used to be on my bulletin board, but then that filled up. I have a drawer full of notes people have sent me, letters, emails saying, thank you so much. I left my full-time job, and now as a consultant, I make the same amount I made full-time working 20 hours a week. And now I get to spend time with my kids and take care of my family and take care of myself. You know, we have members who are scaling into the 7 figures at this point. And even though people don't get into this business to get rich, they get in to make back a corporate salary, typically working when, where, how they want. There's so much potential to scale if that's what people want. So for me, just helping them reach those goals and enjoy their work, redefine work, take a risk, take a chance and bet on themselves is beyond fulfilling for me.
That's awesome. I want to jump in here with a question. So I love the helping others part. And by the way, I've cataloged when people send me heartfelt stuff and put it in this journal I've tagged encouragement. It's pretty fun because sometimes, you know, on a day when it's down or you don't know what value you're adding, you can be reminded. My question for you was, you were obviously doing well as a consultant on your own. What caused, because you could have stopped there, right? Having that work-life balance, doing your thing. What caused you to make the leap? And at some point you went full time with the upside, right? So you went from doing it yourself, succeeding yourself, wanting to help others, and, you know, cut off your consulting and went full time building the community at the upside. What caused you to do that? And how'd you know if you could even make it, right? Because you'd never built a community of people up. You had 0 subscribers, right? So how did that work?
Well, first of all, my clients were not happy. They were like, what do you mean you're leaving? I'm like, oh no, I'm starting my own business. They're like, this is your own business. What are we supposed to do? I was like, sorry. I had very loyal, very awesome clients. First and foremost, the story did not start with community. That is not the original business model. The original business model, I had a brilliant idea that I was going to match consultants with clients because I'm good at business development. I know how to do that side of the business really, really well. And I knew other people, that was their big pain point. It was, how do I get clients? How do I close clients? How do I prospect clients? I was like, okay, you know what? I know how to do all that. I'm really good at it. I'll do that side of the business. And all you do is show up and just be your awesome self. Well, it was a lot more complicated than that. Clients would ask for their bios. They say, great, this person sounds wonderful. Send me her bio. And I'd look at the bio and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to rewrite this person's bio. This bio is not written the right way. It's written from the perspective of an employee who doesn't know their value. It's not written with confidence and conviction and boss written on it. So I hated that business. I absolutely hated that business.
So you had this idea to like bring in leads and matchmake, but it turned out to be something you didn't like.
Oh, it was just a nightmare. It was constantly negotiating contracts. It was constantly having to rewrite bios, train people on how to talk to clients. They were interviewing. I'm like, no. When you talk to a client, you don't interview. You're prospecting. It's a different. I just realized what I knew intrinsically, they did not. Like I didn't realize that I had something of value. I didn't realize that all of this was not obvious to most people. So I took 2 weeks off. This is 18 months into the business, by the way. Took 2 weeks off and I said, I got to reevaluate the business model. And only then did I launch it as a community. It's only been a community for a little less than 2 years. So really starting from scratch, but we had already built an audience. So when I did go out to launch the community, I'm not saying it was easy because it was not, but we already had somewhat of a track record and a name in the space. We just had to build a community from scratch. And there's a big chicken or egg situation when you're building a community because no one wants to join a community with no people in it. But how do you get people to join so that others will join? Which comes first?
For sure. Do you want to share how you did that in brief? You had a nifty way, right? Because you had this team of people and you got them to commit to a certain amount of time and then you went paying.
Well, I'll give like the top tips. Number one is you don't convert free people to paid people. You have to start paid from the very beginning. Starting with a founder's rate, starting with founding members and saying, you will get this rate. It's one time only. You're either in or you're out. And we want you to be a founding member. But after this one round, the price goes up to X and you double or triple it. That's another way to do it, to get people in from the very beginning. Beta testers, that type of thing, founding members. And the other thing is that I did from the very beginning, something I learned from a mentor of mine, which was not to do a monthly membership. It had to be quarterly or yearly or annual, because otherwise people dip their toe in. You can't get anything out of a month of membership for anything. You can't go to the gym for a month and expect to have a six pack.
Right.
It's never worked out before.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 3 months to see results. And just like I teach consultants that you need to have a minimum contract of 3 to 6 months, we took our own advice. And so you have to commit to at least 3 months. You can't see any results if anything less than that. And that was and the other thing is it made it so that we weren't constantly onboarding, which is a lot of work. So we're not taking people on a rolling basis or monthly basis. We're only onboarding people once a quarter, 4 times a year. So it makes it much easier to operate our business.
Very cool. Those are some powerful hacks there of building a community.
Absolutely. So Erin, we're going to hit you with, I hope you're ready for this. We're going to hit you with some rapid fire questions off the cuff. Let's learn a little bit more about Erin. Let's get right into it. Outside of work, Erin, what are some of your favorite hobbies? What do you like to do to stay energized, to keep your mind occupied outside of work?
Well, I love to cook. And you are welcome to come to my dinner table.
I was going to say, we are on the way. Don't worry about that.
I love to cook. I also love to paint. So a lot of people don't know that about me. My next chapter in my old lady years will be, I definitely have a professional painting career somewhere in me. I really want to do it one day. I want to learn more, take classes, elevate my skills big time. That's something that it's always been a part of me since I was born. I've always had a crayon in my hand, and it's something that I just absolutely am so passionate about, but never quite wanted to turn it into a career, which is probably good. My parents were probably happy about that. No, nobody really wants their child to be a professional artist.
Sure.
And yeah, those are the two. You know, they're both creative. They're both, you know, making things. That's hobby wise. Those are really
Very cool.
That's it.
Very cool. And yep, you nailed it. Jeff and I are going to swing by for dinner sometime. We
I hope
will
you
look forward
do.
to that. Thank you for the invite. Don't mean to hold you to it or anything, but we're going to. What is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self, Erin?
Take bigger risks. You know, take bigger risks. And when you say younger self, I'm thinking, you know, 21, 22, 23, which was 2 decades ago for me. I wish I had taken bigger chances, asked for more, you know, pushed harder. I just didn't have that personality. I've always been very happy with what I have. I've always been just a very grateful person. And, you know, I never like to push boundaries. I'm like, oh, you want to pay me $35 a year? Okay, I can make that work. Okay.
Sure.
In New York City. Okay, like I'll figure it out. Instead, I should have been like, you know what? You and I both know that's not a living wage in New York City, and I have a college degree. Why don't we do 50? And then we would have landed on 42.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would have made a big difference, that extra money. And instead, I struggled.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's pretty good advice to take bigger risks. And actually, you know what? While we're on the New York thing, what's the best place to get New York pizza? I've heard the debate rage on and on. All New Yorkers have a big opinion on this. Let's hear you weigh in on this. What's your pizza spot?
Okay, so I'm one of these people that, and New Yorkers will debate about all this stuff. I like the brick oven Italian, the ones that have like the gigantic bubbles and like the, you know, like if you're like hungover, you can eat the whole thing versus the gigantic pies. You know, I'm more like the, you know, that small, like we imported the oven from Italy kind of.
Nice.
Kind of pizza.
The brick oven pizza. Nice.
Yeah, I'm more of a brick oven. Laurent Torrendell, who's a family friend of ours, he has a restaurant called L'Amico, and it's right by Penn Station. So when I come into the city, I come in through Penn Station, and I love stuffing at L'Amico for his pizza. And he probably imported his fancy oven too, but it's a great pie. I don't think people would argue it's the best in the city, but it's the one that, and again, we know him, and it's one that I like.
Sure. Give him a little plug there. That's awesome. That's good stuff. I need a friend who has a brick oven. That sounds amazing. You know, I would love to have brick oven pizza ready to go all the time. So let's do this. Let's wrap up the rapid fire round with this. Erin, what's the first thing that comes to mind that you are deeply grateful for right now? First thing.
My husband.
Excellent answer.
Oh, do you want me to elaborate on that?
Well,
how long is this podcast? I could go on and on. First of all, he's my closest advisor, and I'm a close advisor of his too. You know, we're both business owners. We think talking business is super sexy and super interesting, and we talk business all the time. So I advise him on his, he advises me on mine, and have come from such. And this is why that diversity of thought leadership is so important, even in corporations. We come from completely opposite backgrounds, completely opposite. He works out of a warehouse, and I worked in private equity on Park Avenue, and it couldn't be more opposite, our backgrounds. Yet business is business. And because of the diversity of our backgrounds, we're able to apply what we've both learned through our different backgrounds to each other's business. So I helped him, for example, elevate his staff to what he has today, which is like a serious A team. And I helped him do that because he didn't come from an environment full of Harvard MBAs, and like he came from warehousing. You know, it's just a totally different group of people. And I helped him elevate his people, helped him elevate his staff, and taught him how people are not just warm bodies. You know, you need your A team. There's no room for the Bs, only As. He's taught me about sales and about customer psychology, and in a way that I learned almost everything from him.
Nice.
Almost everything. He grew up in sales. His father grew up in sales. His grandfather grew up in sales. As business owners, as you know, you have to be good at sales. You cannot be a business owner whether you're selling a widget or a service, you have to sell. You have to be able to sell. And so they grew up selling, and I learned so much from him about customer psychology. So yeah, I mean, not to mention just the unwavering support and cheerleading that is required by anybody with a partnership at home.
Sure.
You cannot grow a business if you do not have that person's full support, because it gets hard sometimes.
Well, great. That's excellent. Awesome.
All right, so we're going to bring this to the runway. How do people get in connection with you, including you got that awesome pricing guide, which sounds very well informed. Where should they go?
BeTheUpside.com is everything's hubbed there. You can find all of our free stuff there. It'll link out to Instagram. I do free workshops on Clubhouse. I give out a lot of information for free, and I'm happy to do so. But everything, for the most part, can be found on Instagram or on our homepage. It's all BeTheUpside.com.
Excellent. Erin, thank you so much. We'll be putting all the links and all the details in the description, so everyone go check it out. Support Erin. Erin, thank you again so much for joining us today. You are awesome. Good luck with everything moving forward. And we really appreciate you coming on. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you again next week on the Create With Us podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week.